Hey, welcome back to the channel. So I was watching a video Miller, I'm sorry, Rusty Miner did, and he was showing the Okeechobee Jack from Rosecraft, and I'm like, hey, I got one of those. And not only did he show this wonderful knife, but he compared it to some other knives as well. Watching that video got me to thinking. And what that got me thinking about was what a great example of a jackknife this is right here. It really is. It's not only the ergonomic design of the knife, it's well made, it's slim, it's easily pocketable, but it's also durable, rugged, and just a great example of what jackknives were and have always been. And so, what I thought I'd do is talk about jackknives today. And so, in the video, I am going to talk a little bit about how do we get that name, jackknife. What is a jackknife? A little bit of history of jackknives, and show some, and maybe even talk about where we are today with jackknives. And along the way, maybe I'll be able to answer some questions you might have had about jackknives. So I hope you join me in the video. We'll be sweeping up this hill right here, and I'll show video, but I probably won't be able to talk because I'll just be out of breath and dying. So
I can talk, baby.
hold on a minute. Oh yeah, you can, honey.
I'm already.
Hey, welcome back to the fortified castle, and let's see. We're going to talk about jackknives today, but before that, I got a little mail call today. Ooh, what did we get? Got a case knife, man. Where do you see this knife? Also, got a nice Robeson Trapper in here. This is in a trade from the Knife Detector. Thank you so much for the trade, brother. And we'll be showing these in another video. Wanted to talk about this stuff today. Before I do, hey, it's cold out there. It's been extended cold weather. Every year, I look in my closet. I've got plenty of jackets in there. Usually 4 or better. And I'll pick some of those jackets out, take them down to the Salvation Army so that they can give them to homeless folks who really need something warm. And not only that, another thing I've done is giving them sleeping bags. And so I hope you consider that on these cold days. There's a lot of people out there that are cold right now. And just keep them in your thoughts. And hope you take me up on that and get rid of some of them old jackets. You're not even using them. Just take them to the Salvation Army, or better yet, just stop and give them to a homeless person walking around with no jacket. So anyhow, let's talk about this stuff. All right. So what is a jackknife? Well, the simplest definition of a jackknife is a knife that's blades open the same area in which the knives are affixed to the knife, like that. And that is a jackknife, a knife where the blades open same direction that they're affixed to. It's a good way to remember it. The etymology of that term is North English or Scottish and dates to the pre 1600s. And so initially, that term was Joctaleg, and I'll put that up there for you to look at. Literally, that means Jack, which was a generic term for a human being, another man, and leg, which referred to the handle and means leg. And so, literally, the term Joctaleg meant a knife shaped like a man's leg. Yeah. And that's where we get that term. So, the French had a very similar term called jambet. And jambet means little leg. And that is a term still used in France to designate for a clasp knife. They'll still call a jambet. So there are a bunch of different stories about that term jackknife, where it came from. Two of the leading ones is one was in the 16 and 1700s. Sailors aboard British naval vessels were called jacks, and they carried knives to do various tasks. And so that's where we get the term jackknife from that era. I don't know of anything in writing that supports that. That's a supposition based on some historians' views of it. There's another prominent view, and that is that it came from a knife that was found in Liege, France, and the name on the knife was Jacques de Liege, and Jacques is French for Jack, and so literally that would be Jack of Liege, and that is where we get the term. There is some completed evidence for that, and really I think that's closer to the truth. In 1642, Jackaleg, that name appears on an inventory from William Mackerel of Newcastle, England, and then in 1643, 1 year later, it's found on legal documents from Edinburgh. So, it had to be already in local use for it to show up in documents like that. And then in 1683, the Hudson Bay Company lists 1,000 jackknives. Now, not only is this listed in an inventory of the Hudson Bay Company, but there's some discussion about those particular jackknives, and in it, the receiver, Hudson Bay Company, talks about how these jackknives were printed with the fleur de luce, which is that little French, kind of looks like a club sign that is on a lot of French things. And then at the bottom, on the other end of the knife, it has Jacques Guinard, which is translates. I'll put that up there, what was on the knife, but it translates Jack Guinard. That's really the first time we see a connection between Jacques and France. But it's also pretty close to when the use of this term comes out, and lends a lot of credence to the story that the jackknife actually came from France. Coincidentally, the English had requested that those 1,000 jackknives be rebranded with the English lion crest in an English name. So that's kind of humorous too. So let's move on to just talking about these knives in history. So up until the late 1700s, jackknives were pretty large. When you look at them, they could be 4 to 6 inches, some even larger. This is an old one from the 1840s. This jackknife right here is a little better than 5 inches. The blade is worn down, but it's a pretty big knife, and that was typical of jackknives up until the 1800s. This one also dates to around the 1840s and is pretty much very similar to a jackknife today. Matter of fact, it's about 4 inches and very similar to many, many jackknives that we see today. But the thing to remember is this jackknife dates way back to the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s. And up until the late 1700s, they were only single blades. And then in the 1800s, you start seeing double bladed jackknives and sometimes more than that. So jackknife is a pocket knife, and so we have to there are a lot of different types of pocket knives, so you have to classify that to narrow it down to what you're talking about. And so the way we do that is little, small, light, very easy use knives are called pen knives. And then knives which are used heavier and have a lot of different attachments and blades, we call either utility knives or sportsman's knives. And a lot of different knives fall under this class, like champagne knives, bar knives, camp knives, that kind of thing. And then finally, is the category of jackknives, and that's a knife that has one or more blades attached at one end. And that's what we call jackknives, and they're still around today. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out to you is that, let me see if I have an example. A modern folder, these knives right here, have a blade attached to the end that they open on. Modern folders are basically jackknives. They're just modern jackknives. Now, we don't normally call these jackknives. We may call them sometimes clasp knives, but they are jackknives. And the reason we don't really the reason we call these modern folders is they're just modernized versions of a jackknife. And so they have modern materials, modern steels, modern designs, and that's why we call them modern folders. What's kind of interesting to me is when you look at modern folders, the vast majority of them have a single blade. And 300-400 years ago, when jackknives started, they had single blades. Then when you went through a period of time when they had more and more blades on them, and most of the knives that we look at that we consider jackknives, the traditional folders, have more than one blade. See this right here? It's a little Trapper model from GEC, and it has 2 blades. Pretty nice. I like this blade shape too for a skin and blade. Nice, thick, wide blade. But that's true for most of these knives if you think about it. This one has 3 blades, and it's what we're kind of used to in the traditional knife genre. It's not that, single blades aren't made. Here's a single blade. You find them here and there, but most of them tend to be multi-bladed, 2 blades or more traditional knives. And that's why when I saw that video by Rusty Miner showing that Nolichucky jack with a single blade, it kind of resonated with me, because I kind of realized we're seeing more of that. We're seeing more of these single bladed traditional folders. And of course, modern folders, since the 90s have been single bladed. But on the more traditional side, there's always been a single blade option, but most of them were double blade. And I think we are seeing more and more just single bladed jackknives, and I think that's kind of nice. I like a single blade jackknife, they're really useful. And I like two bladed jackknives. This is one of my favorite models because you have a main blade, and then you also have a pin blade right there. So not so much the copperhead, but just the fact that you have a pin blade and a main blade. I like that combination in a knife. Lets you do little tiny things, lets you do big things. You got two blades in case you're doing a lot of work and one wears out. And I like that combination. But I also really appreciate a knife like this right here that just gives you a single blade. That's all you need. And anyhow, that's my reflections. I just from watching that in Rusty Miner, I remembered these old style jackknives, and we've kind of come full circle from one bladed to multi bladed to several blades, right back around into the single blade again. I think that's kind of cool. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I thank you for all your support.